Has Jim Knowles given any indication to there being adjustments to his defense this year?
Well, I think that it's natural that there'll be some tweaks and some different things that will come about this year. He didn't really think that Jack Sawyer ever took to the Jack role as a defensive lineman, and so it kind of remains up in the air whether they're going to pursue that with him or make him more of an every down player, I guess. That may make more sense to do that. I think one of the things I came away with is that now that he's in his second year and everybody knows everybody now, and everybody's familiar with everybody now, he feels that now that those relationships are built, that he can coach a little harder, perhaps, than he did the first year, where I wouldn't say it was all, daisies and daffodils, but I think that there is that getting to know you phase that's now over, and now it is high expectation phase and results phase. So they didn't get those obviously in the two biggest games of the year against Michigan and Georgia. So now I think the hope is that they can push this defense to be better. And I think, they did make some improvements, certainly from the year before to last year. And a lot of the same guys will be back as third-year starters this coming year. So I think the hope or the thought is that a lot of those guys will be able to take that next step. I wrote about one today, Tyleik Williams, a defensive tackle, had 5 sacks as a freshman, only had 1 as a sophomore. And really, with Teron Vincent leaving, that's a position right there, defensive tackle, where they desperately need somebody to not only step up and play and fill those plays and fill those reps, but to make plays. And too often last year, I just didn't see enough difference making from those guys up front. So it all begins up front to me. I mean, that's, history of this game is everything begins with offensively what your offensive line can do and defensively what your defensive line can do. And I think that if that unit's improved, then there'll be some heavy improvement across the board. But I think you got to be optimistic that they're going to be much better, I think, defensively in 2023. I don't have any doubt about that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And you can probably just measure it by, you don't even necessarily need to look at points per game or yards per game. Just keep an eye on the big plays allowed, like the 40-yarders allowed, and see what that number is over the course of a season. And that will probably tell you all of the rest of those numbers. But in terms of the Jack and Jack Sawyer, Larry Johnson did say like he hopes that Jack Sawyer can just, concentrate more on the defensive end. I'm writing about that a little bit for today. I also think Larry Johnson kind of needs to get on board with what Jim Knowles' defense is. And I wonder, when Jim Knowles is saying that he can coach guys harder, how much of that is also referring to his coaches now that he knows everybody better and can demand more from everybody, because this is his defense. So you can't have guys who are half in, half out. Everybody needs to be all in. And Larry Johnson is a Hall of Famer and is this and is that. But what we've seen over the course of, since if it's not a Bosa or it's not a Chase Young over the last 6-7 years, we talk about how these guys have underachieved, how individually they're not getting as much as they should out of guys. Teron Vincent was the number 1 defensive tackle in the class of 2018. He leaves Ohio State now. I don't know that he was ever more than an honorable mention all Big Ten. Got questions about Jack Sawyer already. When's he going to be doing something? Zach Harrison. I mean, these questions and guys that have had expectations and haven't necessarily lived up to it. How much of that are the expectations being too high? How much of that is Larry Johnson not getting the most out of his players, and or is it not a good fit for the defense right now? But I don't think they've had several different defenses. They've had 3 different defenses in the last 4 years, basically. So I don't know that you can just continue to point at the defensive systems when looking at lack of production.
Let me unmute myself. Yeah, I think you guys really kind of hit the points that I was looking to talk about there. That's the the downside of going third on a topic that's pretty narrowly focused there. Obviously there are going to have to be some changes here in year 2. I think that they've had more of an opportunity to kind of identify some things in terms of what personnel are able to do. I mean, sometimes you want to coach players into what it is that your scheme is, and sometimes you have to adjust your scheme a little bit to best suit the players that you have. I think that Jack being more of an everyday, Jack Sawyer, that is, not the Jack position, of being more of an everyday type player every down, I think suits him a little bit better. I mean, I think sometimes we get so caught up in whether or not it's the bullet or the jack or the bandit or whatever the term is at that point. There needs to be more of an emphasis of just getting home and making the plays, as opposed to, okay, this is how smart we are. We're going to sit there and we're going to have this caveat. And then when it never comes home, I mean, how smart are you really at that point? I mean, I'd rather just go out there and roll a basic 4-2-5 and make plays and not have any special designations.